Good day. How's everybody going? You just give me 1 second here as I move everything the way I want it. Okay. So I have a little bit of time here. I'm just waiting to get some people here in. Let me just see here. I kind of gave short notice for this, so I'm just going to wait a little bit and see if people join in. And if they do, that'd be great. If not, then I'm going to go ahead with it anyways and tell people what my announcements are and what's going on. So yeah, if you're here though, do let me know in the chat, but just tell me where that you're here and where you're watching from. I'm just in the process of just doing a few things up for the announcement that I had. I realized I was missing the last of what I sort of wanted to talk with you about. So just 1 second here. So yeah, and if you have any questions, do ask them in the chat. I always love answering your questions, but part of it is, like I said, last week I had to cut my Friday stream off a little early because I was just having some technical problems. I was mostly probably as much a head problem that day. I wasn't in the right space. And just with this new software, it was just that I'm using, it was just messing me up. So, and where Good Friday is this Friday, I wanted to give people a chance to, since I won't be doing a regular Friday one this week, and it's possible next week after, as I am doing some traveling that week. I don't know if I'll be back in time to do a live stream or not. So I just have to do one thing here. And so if you do, please bear with me. Again, just let me know where you're watching from. Introduce yourself if you want. If you don't want to, that's okay. Remain silent. Can you hear me? That's I always like to test. That reminds me, I need to. You probably can't hear me. Okay. Hi, Nick. Okay. There. Can you guys hear me now? My new mic system, for whatever reason, is not wanting to power up. There we go. Okay, well, it's powering now. Okay. Yeah, I'm glad to have you here. So yeah, anybody here, just let me know where you're coming from. It'd be great to hear from you. I do have a couple of announcements. So I'm gonna just download something and as I just changed, was just making an addition of something. As I was saying, I'm sort of doing this midweek, mid-afternoon in Prince Edward Island. Just late afternoon. I guess it's quarter after 4, almost 4:30. And so I just, like I said, I have announcements to make. Just some things are changing in my life, for the good. And um, so I wanted to just talk a little bit about that, just to let you know, for people that don't know me, I've been doing this family history channel for the last 4 years. Um, Besides that, I had, up until very recently, I had worked as, besides doing genealogy work, my full-time career for the last 20 some odd years was I was a manager at various companies, managing staff, basically doing customer service and technical support management, at call centers, but not just call centers, but other places as well, where a big part of it was coaching people how to provide good customer service. It's something I really believe in. But last fall, after working for one particular company for the last 15 years, we had lost our contracts. So I was left with a point in my life where I was trying to figure out what to do. For a long time, I wanted to sort of dedicate myself to full time to doing the YouTube thing. I do think it's really important, but I also know it's not necessarily, when you're first starting out, the most lucrative. So I was looking at other ways that I can use the skills that I have in providing customer service, but also use my history and my genealogy background. I studied history at university, but what I do really value learning, and I value research, and I value taking the skills that I have. And this, one of the reasons I loved my previous job, is teaching other people, um, which is why I want to start the family history channel. And history, and particularly genealogy, not only is a love of mine, but um, when I look at history, a lot of people aren't taught history anymore, um, and they don't have a knowledge and a love for it necessarily that I have. But you don't even have to have that extent, but just to be able to have discuss things and understand the past, because I do really believe that people who do not know history, do not understand it, are doomed to repeat it. And there's a lot of bad things that's happened in our past. Um, and I think one of the ways to get people interested in history is by getting them interested in their own family history. Because I think when you're interested in your own family history, that makes it personal. So when you're learning about your grandparents or great grandparents, you want to learn about the times that they lived in. So it gets you interested in that history, and it gives you a better understanding. And it makes it harder when people are informed and understand that, to do things such as um, ju- jump to rush judgments about people in the past and what they did and what they experienced, because often it's taught from one perspective or another, um, ideology, but there's often motives when people are teaching history. um, and I think it used to me that when you learned history, the idea of learning history was it was to influence your values. So you would get your values a lot from history. Whereas now it seems like people's values want to inform history and change it. So it matches, or if it doesn't match it, then, well, let's not talk about it, or let's completely disparage people. I'm really concerned about that, and I really want to see that change. Um, so so it come the beginning of this year, I found myself without a job. I had moved to a temporary job, doing something I thought was going to be possibly a career move, but it wasn't. It wasn't for me, and I still really have this desire. So that's what my announcement is today. So I'm going to talk about it. Just give me 1 second while I load it up here. Um, and did it download right? So I'm not going off script here because this is live. So I'm just I'm sorry if I sound a little jumbled at points. I do have a few things that I do want to talk about specifically, but let me just see here. And no, it didn't save. Okay. That's your title, right? Okay. There we go. Okay. So we're going to do this. And I'm going to share this. So let me know if you can see this. Okay. So here we are. We're going to talk about this announcement. I'm just going to see if there's a better way. I have a few different options here. I really want to switch these two, and I haven't figured that out yet. Let me see. Does that do it? Shift 2, it's supposed to know. Okay, so I will go back to doing this then. So I'm down there in the corner, so hopefully I don't mess things up. So yeah, if you're just dropping in now, I noticed a few more people did join. Just let me know where you're watching from. And if you're watching this on the repeat afterwards, join in there. So, I've actually, part of this, as I was explaining, when I found myself looking for a new job, I looked at genealogy, but I also looked at doing things differently. So let me see, that's not working. There we go. I just want to turn that off for a second. Okay. So I wanted to do things a little differently. So I decided to start working in genealogy full time. Today is actually the day that I'm doing it, just because of specific commitments to other things that I had contractually and otherwise that I couldn't do until today. Technically, it was yesterday, the 13th, but I don't usually do anything on Sundays. And plus, I really do want to share this with my audience. I wasn't sure if I was going to do it right today or I was going to wait, but I thought, let's start off on the right foot. So I'm going to talk about this, and I'm going to talk. The first thing is I really want to do genealogy different, because often when we think of genealogy and we think of genealogy businesses, people that think, there we go, there, I figured out how to do that. Okay. No, I do want to switch that. I want to make that one bigger. How do I do that? That I can do that, but that's not good. There, and no. Okay. Anyways, so I do want to do a different kind of genealogy. So I've started a company. It's a registered company here in Prince Edward Island and in Canada, called How We Got Here Genealogy Services. Keeping it inconsistent with the name of my channel, because it's my branding, and it's it's something that I think is a good name, because it is really what the purpose of genealogy or family. I prefer to call it family history, really, and I prefer to call myself a family historian. It's our purpose. It's to find out our roots, how we got to where we are through our family, through history. Okay, so the mission statement of my company, one of the things I did, because long ago, and even while I'd worked in the corporate world, I'd worked for political parties, and one of the developing policy and a lot of internal policy amongst other things. And one of the things I started back then was learning about mission statements and vision statements. And I think that's really important because it is nice to have guiding principles. And this is something that sort of been the mission statement of my channel, of my podcast, is that I believe every family has a story. So I want to let us, and I'm going to say us, and you understand why as I go into this, to help tell your story. So and that's sort of it. Again, I guess I'll just do this here. Boom. And take this off and hide this so you can see the whole thing. There we go. So I believe every family story is interwoven with the family history. So how we got here, genealogy, it's going to help you uncover your personal narratives and understand them within the context of the communities, nations, and world events that shaped your ancestors' lives. So that's this. There we go. And that is one of the things I've done with my channel, is to try to have people talk about not just family history, but just generally certain people groups, because that's really where our history is contained. It's contained in, I don't even want to call them ethnicities necessarily. There's sometimes that's part of it, nationalities, but even more so than that, often it's the, I want to say maybe our cultural ethnicity in the sense that, and that can be sometimes as small as in small regional, there's very much differences to, and then it'll grow out from there, from larger regions to countries and even to parts of continents, etc. But all these things and world events too, and our place in the world, that community, that nation had within world events. Even if it's nice to sort of, when you start understanding, when you had ancestors living in a certain place at a certain time, what was really going on around them, because those would be the things, just like current events shape our thoughts and our beliefs, our actions, some often our careers, such as when new technology comes, there's new careers. So it's really important to have that understanding. And so going on to that, the vision statement, and I really want to see this business as the future of family history in a way. At least, I guess, as far as I'm concerned, I want to bring family history to life by weaving together personal stories and the grand narrative of history, inspiring a deeper understanding of who we are, where we come from, and the internet connections of our past. We are very deeply interconnected. I speak of, and I think I might have on one of my videos talked about this experience I had when I was in university. There was an exchange student my last year at university. She was from Holland, and a place I'm probably not saying, it's probably Deal, Holland. And she was over in Halifax. She had actually some cousins that had emigrated to Nova Scotia, and she was at our university. And I was going to my grandparents, which is in for spring break, which is in Cape Breton. My grandfather at the time, was a World War II vet, and he was because of medical conditions, he was living in a veterans home, which was the top floor of the local hospital. The Department of Veterans Affairs had contracted it out to be a veterans hospital, or a veterans nursing home, I guess. And so there was all these vets. This was in the early 90s, so there was still a lot of vets from World War II. They would have been in their 60s and 70s. A lot of them had injuries from the war they hadn't fully recovered, or other things that had affected their lives a lot, often because of the war, sometimes not at all. Um, and my grandfather had served in World War II. First, his first real battle experience was during the liberation of the Allied invasion and liberation of Italy. He was there at the liberation of Rome. Um, I've shown them on my channel before. I actually had them out because somebody was wanting to talk about some artifacts that people have from World War II. It's these really, it doesn't show up well, unfortunately. Some really nice, these were made, and I'm showing it, and you can't see it, but let's switch back to me for a second. Isn't that wonderful, Brian? Okay. Okay, so I'm going to go, actually, not doing that. I'm going to just stop there for a second. And so this is a silk handkerchief, and it's upside down there. There we go. And it just says souvenir to my wife, and it says from Rome, 1944. So I never really got the full story of these because I didn't know they existed until well after my grandfather's death. And I found them when my mother and I were cleaning out my grandmother's house when she was 98 because she was going to a nursing home after all those years. And so we found those, and so I don't really have the exact full story, but this is the way I imagine and I understand it, that he probably picked them up from a lady in or outside Rome area that was basically taking materials she had and did that a little bit embroidering, was selling them to soldiers to make a little money because they were, quite devastated at that point financially, and any little bit helped. I've seen pictures of them selling large amounts of tomatoes, etc. So yeah, that's, anyways, I was at the veterans home, sort of got sidetracked there. There was one veteran there, and all the times I had visited my grandfather, he'd been there at that point 2.5 years, I think. And this was one of the last times I was actually able to visit him. He died a few months later during the beginning of, well, actually it was on the first day of August that year. So I think for probably the last or second last, not this particular visit, but that spring break, I believe that's actually the last time I was in Cape Breton when he was still alive to visit him. But I remember there was this one veteran that I never heard him talk. All the nurses said he was kind of a grumpy old fella. He didn't say much, and when he did, it was kind of mumbly, he always sounded like he was just upset at the world. Anyways, the girl from Holland, she came up to Cape Breton to because she wanted to visit Cape Breton before she left, and I invited her. She was a friend of my girlfriend's at the time, so she came up and she was staying with me. So I took her to the veterans home to meet my grandfather. Now, my dad was in the military, and while we never served overseas, a lot of our friends had served in Baden, Germany, and a few of the other places where the Canadians had military establishments before a past government basically demolished our military and made it next to nothing, which is one of the complaints of, and rightfully so, of Donald Trump in regards to Canadians, is that our own military has been weakened quite a bit. But I don't want to talk about that because that would get me quite steamed. And upset because have a heritage in the military with my family, and it's important to me that we have that. And anyways, so this fellow I never really heard speak much, but when he found out she was from Hall, oh yes, and the the friends of mine that had their father had served overseas at different times, they always talked about how much the Dutch people love the Canadians, and I understand because of the liberation, because during the World War II, we housed your royal family. In fact, the eventually the queen who would become the queen of the Netherlands was born in Ottawa. Well, technically she wasn't, because they took the particular room where she was born and they actually declared it to be part of the Netherlands, like much like you would do land that. I'm talking way here with my hands, and much like you would do with land of an embassy, etc. So there was a deep respect. I understood that, and I was told stories of when they would drive in Europe and in the Canadian military. When you're in Europe, you had a license plate. It was a Canadian license plate that was issued from the base, and that they would be stopped in little towns, and people would come out and wash their cars. They would invite them in for dinner, and I realized that there was this real love, and still many years later, for the Canadians by the Dutch people. And because of the soldiers, and the liberation, you can easily understand that. But I never knew how much it was actually in reverse till this fella who was a grumpy Gus for, like I said, didn't really say much. Didn't really. A lot of the other men, they would play crib or different card games and stuff. He sort of kept to himself, and he was, like I said, kind of grumbly. But when he found out she was from Holland, he took her. He wanted to come back to the room, and he brought out this album. And I wish cell phones would have been a thing at the time, because it would have been great to get. He was going through all these old pictures of Holland, and he started talking about his experience there. And he started talking about his love for the Dutch people. One of the things I really remember, when he was talking to her, he was talking about how this family who had nothing had invited him and his friends in, and they served them the meal. What little food they had, they served the meal. He sat down at a family table. He said it was the first time he felt he ate like a human from the time he had left England to go, or he was actually had been part of the Canadian expedition on D-Day, had been in Europe for quite a long time. And he was explaining that he felt human. He felt like part of a family again. And he broke down in tears. It was just amazing. There is that interconnectedness we all have. So it's important. Again, my vision is to get that and see that it's just more than, like I said, just your family tree. It's learning that whole interconnectedness. We have that at our fingertips now. We are able to reach out using online resources, etc., to make this world smaller. And the last of the things is the value statements. And like I said, often today it seems like people want to take current values and reflect them upon history. I do very much believe in traditional values, in the sense that there's things that we learn from the past which make us develop our values, because we learn to appreciate them. Whether that's understanding the concept of a lot of the freedoms we have. I have a friend at university. He was from Africa. He was Canadian, but he had lived in Africa almost all his life, because his dad had worked for, I believe, an oil company, or might have been a power company. I had two friends that were both from Kenya that were Canadians, but I can't remember which this one was. But he was telling me that he wasn't born in Kenya, but he lived most of his life there, from I think basically all his schooling until he came to university. He came back to Canada. He was talking about elections there, and he was telling me that he remembers one election that the president of Kenya got up on TV, and he had himself surrounded with basically guards pointing machine guns. And I'm relating this as it was told to me. I'm assuming it's true from what I've heard from other people. That basically he said that they were going to have presidential elections and that nominations were open and they'd be open for the next 2 hours. And if anybody wanted to step forward to challenge, he would be running for president again. They were free to because they were a democracy. It wasn't much of a democracy, though, when you're surrounded by gunmen and you're telling people they have to come step forward to run. Nobody really challenged them. So there was no further nominations. And after that time period, whether it was an hour or two, I'm trying to go from memory. I think my friend said it was about 2 hours. He basically stood there on TV, surrounded by gunmen. When he found nobody came forward, he announced the election date and announced that he would be the candidate. So we do have values that come from us from experience and understanding. I've really valued democracy. Like I've always had an interest in politics and stuff, but I've really, no matter what a person's political view is, I really think that it's important to vote. We have an election coming up here in Canada in a couple of weeks, and it's really important just because, we live in a place where we have that freedom to vote. Yeah. Was it the whole hospital? Sorry, I'm just went back to the chat. So I was, but Netherlands, it was the whole floor of the hospital. Okay, I knew it was at least the ward or the wing of the hospital that she was at, or the 1 or 2 rooms. Yeah, so that she would be basically considered to be born in Holland, because if not, she would not have been able to ascend to the throne. So yeah, all these, and Nick, it's funny. A couple years ago, when I started doing this YouTube channel, I started writing to some of the embassies in Canada, talking. I was looking for some. I was actually looking for a collection of death flags, and there was a few specific countries that I was interested in getting, and the Netherlands being one of them. And I apologize when I know that Holland is not the country. Holland is just one province. I just think in the Western world, for whatever reason, we're trained in our mind to think of that. I guess it comes from the old Kingdom of Holland, but I know it's much more the Netherlands. So do accept my apologies when I refer to it wrongly. But so the Netherlands embassy, they sent me not only a full flag that had flown at their embassy, they also sent me some stuff commemorating the liberation of Holland, which this year is the 80th anniversary. One of the deputy minister of Veterans Affairs for Canada, he actually goes to my church, and he said he goes on a lot of these trips. His father actually his grandfather had fought in Vimy Ridge. I think he actually might have died at Vimy Ridge, if I remember correctly. But this is one of the proudest things he's done in his career, is be this the deputy minister of Veterans Affairs, and he enjoys going to these different trips to commemorate Canadians' veterans' experiences, and he's looking forward to the trip to Holland, the Netherlands. Sorry, see, there I go. And he was saying they have identified. I was talking to him 2-3 weeks ago. There was 20 men that are still alive that were part of the liberation of the Netherlands that are in good enough health that are going to be making the trip. He hopes that by the time the trip comes in May, that there'll still be these still the full 20 men, and he's talked about he's gotten to know them all personally. Yeah, so there's a really deep connection. Anyways, yeah, so my value statements, again, getting back to this. My value statement, this is the summary of it, and it's your story, and it's our care. And again, you're going to see this our or we I'm going to be using, and history's wisdom. So what does that mean? It means for your story, it's your story reflects our deep respect for the unique narratives of your ancestors and the personal significance of your heritage. Let me see. There we go. So everybody's heritage, though there's a lot of similarities, there are distinctiveness. Unless you're a sibling, or you're a double cousin, you probably have some differences in heritage. Again, because heritage is not just the ethnicity or nationality you come from, it's that whole community, that whole experience, and it's your family, right? So while there's a lot of shared experience, there's still the unique part of it. The our care is, and we're going to approach every research endeavor with genuine care, prioritizing in each individual's journey and providing empathetic and client-centered attention. So that means is, you know what, I'm going to treat, and the people I'm working with me are going to treat everybody's family history as if it was their own. They have to have that type of care. Again, as I started at the beginning of this conversation long ago, that one of the things is, to make history, people engage in history. I think the importance of understanding your own family history is important, because it is personal. It is something you care about. You want to know the things, the good and the bad. Sometimes knowing the bad is, in the long run, good, because you can learn. You can see how maybe the next generations overcame some of those disparaging things or bad things, and then knowing the good, to celebrate those things. Knowing your ancestors, like my grandfather, that helped free the Netherlands, that fought in the war, that took a stand, was a volunteer, having that. And one of the things he did, he was the first of his line, and his family name, his direct, want to say Y-DNA line, that was not a coal miner. And simple reason is because he went and he fought as a soldier in World War II. His siblings, that were the male sibling, his brothers, they stayed in the mines because coal was an important part of the industry. He had always sort of, his mother had hoped he would be educated, and he had a desire before the war. He was thinking of possibly, I found out this recently, becoming an engineer after the war. The war was hard on him. He talked about experiences, and it really affected the rest of his life. But no, it's, again, everybody has those very personal things. It's treating that with care as if it was our own. Now, history's wisdom, and then we believe that the true depth of understanding comes from history's wisdom. So what does history's wisdom? That's all those things that you learn, the values, the things that history has taught us. So we want to emphasize the critical role of historical context in illuminating the lives and contributions of our ancestors, and they do help provide valuable insights for they. And this, again, all sort of my reason for being and doing family history is because of really that last part, providing insights in today. I am a firm believer of that. if you don't learn history, you're bound to repeat it. If you don't respect history and understand it, you're you're uh, you're bound to repeat it, and not in the good way. It's if you sort of some people just brush certain things aside, even with a lot of things. When a few years ago, when there was the cancel culture, and people went overboard on certain things, um, and rightfully so. There was some definitely injustices. I'm not going to deny that, but we sometimes forget that the period that the people we're talking to are from, or we're forgetting some other things in their lives. I think of Canada's first Prime Minister, John A. Macdonald. He really got a bad rap in the last few years um, because of residential schools in Canada. Whether your feeling on that is where it stands, what happened with residential schools, is he first of all, he wasn't the full to blame, because they continued long after him. In fact, every prime minister up until 1984, there continued to be residential schools. But when there was that movement to really cancel him, as they say, they forgot all the good things he did for the nation, building the nation. He actually was the first person to suggest that Indigenous people, and he really felt that Indigenous people deserved the right to vote, which they didn't get until many, many generations after him, many prime ministers after him. He, there was some good things, and there was definitely some things that weren't positive about him. But instead of remembering the good things, not forgetting the bad things, and talking about those and how they are wrong, even if in the context of history at that point they might have been more acceptable. But you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. So it's really important, I think, that people understand that, because often they forget where things came from, and that's sometimes where you then start to get those prejudices and stereotypes because of different things, or you just have that wrong understanding. Anyways, so and these values is going to guide our research and our storytelling and our interactions, ensuring a meaningful and enriching experience as we explore families' past together. Now, I'm going to be providing different family history services, and these are sort of the four areas where I break it down to, and I'm going to talk about a few of those areas a little more in depth in the next few minutes. Teaching. So starting June 1st, it should be launching. This is something I've been working on, and again, it's going to launch June 1st. I'm creating an online course that's called Researching Your Family History. It's going to be a 12-part comprehensive course that will help guide new and some people that have experience or just need a fresher way of thinking to do things. It's going to be a learn at your pace, and there's going to be mentorship and support throughout the process. It's from the process of initially starting your research plan until actually executing and completing it. So you see a little number 1 there. I think that was a mistake in my, I'm just noticing in my bullet forms. Anyways, so these are topics, and these are just really a summary. I was trying to cover what I'm going to cover in the course just here quickly. But it's going to include, but not limited to, effectively finding and using sources. And that's both online and physical. The physical archives and libraries that you go to. Using genealogy software and website. A lot of people use different, especially with the websites. I find sometimes they use it, but they don't actually use its full potential. They don't they don't make the most of it. Um, Even myself. So then when you have something like a subscription service to Ancestry or MyHeritage, if you're not using the full value out of it, you start to think, well, should I be paying for it? And that's a legitimate um, question. That's one of the things I want to cover with people. Where's the value in it? Because there's going to be things that you can find elsewhere. There's going to be things that if you know how to find it, you're going to be able to find elsewhere for possibly no cost or lesser cost or just even better context of it. Um, it's You're going to learn how to place your family in historical context, um, understand and utilize your DNA test results. Now, I'm not a genetic genealogist by any token. The science part of DNA, I'm limited to, but there's the genealogical part of how to use that information, what's provided, um, and then also how to create a narrative. And I'm going to be exploring that different ways. You can create a narrative by your traditional family tree, which tends to be just, you know, events, birthday, marriage, death, etc., and military service. But let's really explore how to tell that story, whether it's you're telling it in written form, um, learning how to tell the story orally, or if you're want to even do some advanced things in um, creating videos or audiovisual presentations. Um, and sort of the future of this is I see the creation of additional modules utilizing expertise of different family historians around the world, and also eventually getting to the point that where customized courses can be created based on specific needs and areas of areas of research. Um, so that's where I see it going. Um, this course is going to be launching, I said, June 1st, and it's going to be basically a foundation type course for doing genealogy. It's going to be very broad, um, broad in the sense of teaching how to do research, teaching how to find sources, what type of places you should be looking at, as opposed to if you're learning, you want to learn about your Irish or your German or your French ancestors. Well, these different places is where you're going to find that information, and not just in the broad aspect of learning the type of places you can find them, but also with that information, what you can utilize, and what type of information you should be looking for. Um, so then a community. So starting early May, I'm actually almost have this ready to launch now, is a creation of a dedicated online family history community. So this is originally when I was starting to think about the course. I said it's really important that they're a community for the people taking the course, but I really want not just those people, but everybody to be involved, to have a place where you can share ideas. You get stuck on a brick wall, you can talk about it. You can uh, um, facilitate discussions on certain topics to help basically learn from one another, to seek advice from one another, seek people's expertise. So there's certain areas where I do consider I have a fairly good expertise in, but there's certain parts when we're looking at when I done research for people in the past, I get stuck in an area because it's not where my expertise is. So I'm having to reach out, and there's really needs to be that concentrated place. And even one of the things I've noticed on different Facebook groups lately, you get into a Facebook group where there's a lot of great genealogy Facebook groups out there. But I've heard this complaint from numerous sources and numerous different groups is they don't like it because all the other stuff that Facebook encompasses. Because they just want to go on there because they just care about they can't help but see other people's posts, and people are friends, and they don't limit themselves to that genealogy world. So they get discouraged or upset by all the other, and again, it's not just because of the groups, it's in general. So I want to create a place that's basically for people that love history, love heritage. And there's some people might never actually do any family history, but they're really interested in a specific people group or heritage in general. So they know that they have a Dutch background, so they want to know Dutch history. They want to know whatever. I want to have a place where that is comfortable for people. You can see I was putting together these last couple slides because I had them done up nicely, and for some reason it didn't save right. And the next thing is experiential genealogy, and that's a chance to walk in the footsteps of your ancestors. This can be anything from because I've been asked numerous times for people that want to experience, for instance, certain aspects of Atlantic Canadian history, that they want to have an experience where they can come, they can have somebody show them things. So I'm working with a company that has a platform already that does some of the stuff I want, but to develop some very specific things for genealogy and heritage, some affordable self-guided tours that people can take, that if they want to, if they're traveling, and to take it as part of their vacation, to the point that there's going to be a few trips, specifically tours that I'll be organizing. Probably my aim is to do maybe one a year, to specific locations, with a small group of people. I'm talking 8 to 12 people. So 4 to 6 couples, most likely, where we would go and we'd explore specific things, whether it's if I'm taking a group to Scotland and they want to see where their ancestors lived, and we go to a couple of the specific islands, and we sort of engulf ourselves in their culture and the happenings of that place. And then the last thing is traditional genealogy services and consulting. And this is it's something I'm sort of doing because I'm doing it already for people, but it's I really want the desire for people to learn to do it themselves and experience it themselves. Hence the whole setting up the course and the community, because people, that's where you're going to learn, and you're really going to appreciate it and have that when you are experiencing yourself, your family history. When you actually do the research and find out, there's exhilaration, there's joy, and there are people that's not for them. So I still want people to be able to understand their and learn their family history. So what does this mean? Whoops, so I'm going to go out of there 1 second. Boom. Okay. Oops. So yeah, what does this mean? Especially, like I said, I was talking about the R's and the S's a lot throughout this. And one of the things is, again, like I said from the beginning, this is going to be hopefully be my career. It's my business. I'm hoping to make some income. There's going to be costs involved, but I also want to get people involved, because I believe that we have a lot to teach each other, to learn from each other, which is part of the reason of setting the community. Setting up a community, there's a cost to it. But I want to make sure that it's at a level that's there's value in it. Um, and I want to be able to even give the opportunity for other people um, that have knowledge and skills to possibly be able to turn their passion into some income as well. Whether that's when I start working doing some of the courses, if somebody approaches me and says, Brian, I'd like to teach a course on um, doing understanding the history of and genealogy. If you have Mennonite family, for instance, in Canada, or somebody that has a deep understanding of researching German history or French history or wherever it is, giving them an opportunity to create a course, create some income by providing this. Even for some of the tours, the platform that I'm using, and I'm going to be launching this summer is going to be quite nice. And if it works the way I expect it to work, there'll be opportunities for people like that are in different areas to say, you know what, there's some heritage sites I'm passionate about, things where I can set up a simple tour, and it will be a source that you could generate some income from as well. People that are involved in the community at different levels, there's going to be some advantage for them as well, that there could be reduced cost, no cost. In fact, for starting out for this, for the people that are interested, if they go to my website, howwegothere.ca, there'll be it should pop up automatically. If you go there, it will ask you to sign up to get some information about the course. And in that, I'm also going to be providing some information about the community that will be starting. I'm looking for people that are interested in, at no cost, of becoming part of that initial community group. So I start to build it. So when it starts, there's already a foundation of people there that have that some expertise or some knowledge, or even they just wanting to share and learn, because that's important. So that when the community is created, there's also, prior to that, before it goes fully public, that some people have had a chance to explore, evaluate. So I'm looking for people that are interested in doing that. So if that's you, just like when you do the course, you'll I'll probably be sending an email shortly after it. There'll be an automatic email acknowledging it. If it's set up right, it should be. So, and same as my newsletter. Actually, I have a newsletter that I'm almost done in May. So it's going to be a regular electronic newsletter. There's no cost to that. If anybody wants to sign up to that, they can go to newsletter.howwegothere.ca. So no www, just newsletter.howwegothere.ca. They can sign up. It's free, and I really want to encourage people to sign up for that and learn. Thanks, Nick. Yeah, it is. It's kind of a scary thing. As you can see, I'm not a young chicken. Probably younger than most people think from looking. That's been one of the hard parts of looking for work. Often I get mistaken for being older, but that's always been a problem. When I was younger in university and underage, it was nice because I was always able to go to the local pub and hear my favorite bands and enjoy a pint. But when you get older and you start realizing, oh, they're IDing you because they think you're a senior, not because you look young, which was never a problem. When I turned 40, somebody asked me, how does it feel to be 40? And I said, it's nice that I finally look my age, because from the time I was 20, I was told I looked 40. I had premature gray hair. Um, so, though I had a full set of hair up until I was almost 40. Nice thick hair. I used to have to get fitting shears, not anymore. Um, Hence, I wear the hat so that you don't get as much reflection off there, the lights. But yeah, no, it's a scary thing. It's something I'm hoping that I have support from the people that are in my community that to show up to these live streams occasionally, but the people that are to watch my videos might never say anything, or some people that just they watch my videos. I never see a comment from them, but they send me an email. I'm inviting everybody basically between now and April 15th, sorry, May 15th. If you're interested, that I want you to have a first chance at no cost to join the community, become part of it, and possibly again stay part of it in the long term, and be able to share your passion, and also hopefully be able to I'll have some other specific courses for people that are involved in the community as well, for helping them learn how they can monetize some of the opportunities I have, because I believe there is that possibility, and it's it's nice to be rewarded for, especially when you're doing something you love and enjoy. So I don't know if anybody has any questions. Yeah, I had really thought this through. It's something I had been thinking about before I had gotten laid off from my company, and it was always I have a family that the worry about how it's, as starting any business, you worry about how you're going to support your current lifestyle, and I was luckily able to come into something where I could do that. So if there's not any questions, anybody have anything they want? Anything they want to ask me about this, or anything in general? Again, I won't be doing a live stream this Friday because it's Good Friday, but and the next Friday I'm hoping to. I am traveling next week for part of the week. I have to go over to Nova Scotia and Cape Breton, but I'm hoping to be back in time to do my live stream. I have been working diligently on the last part of my Ulster Scots, or Scots Irish. It's going to be talking about the Ulster Scots in specifically New Zealand, a little bit of Australia, but mostly New Zealand, is that from my research, and where I always thought that Australia was more the first choice but there's the Ulster Scots mostly went to New Zealand. There's comparatively. Okay, well, if there's nothing there anybody has to say, please, like I said, go to my website, sign up for the newsletter, sign up for the course if you're interested in it. And again, there's some people that I'll probably want to go over and review maybe some of the things I'm doing in the course, and the approach I'm taking, basically a test audience, so to speak, to see if it's something that is worthwhile. So thank you all again, everybody that's here. And if you're watching on the replay, don't forget to comment and let me know. I really appreciate that. And you have yourself a great day. And yeah, keep searching for your ancestors, and hopefully we can start to do more of that search together.